So if you're currently dieting to lose body fat and get a lean physique, or if you're someone who is thinking about getting on that journey soon and you want to get down to 10% body fat, or let's say 12% body fat, in this video, what I'm going to share with you are 3 things that really nobody talks about and when it comes to this journey to getting ripped. Because there's a lot of things you got to prepare yourself. This is not just a straightforward thing where you just say, I'm going to do it, and then you go out there and do it. Life is complicated. Things are going to get in the way. And what I want to share with you in this video are a couple of things that would have really saved me a lot of effort and trouble when I was first dieting down to 10% body fat. And I had to kind of discover this on my own. And these days I see a lot of people repeat the same mistakes. So I hope this video actually points out some of these things, and that you can prepare yourself, manage your own expectations, and then do things right. So let's dive into it. So one of the first things that really caught me off guard when I was on that journey to getting a ripped physique was just how much fat loss can slow down. And this is one of those things that you don't really hear a lot about. It's kind of mentioned from time to time, but when you first start losing body fat, you get excited when you see the number on the scale go down, and it goes down relatively quickly, and you're happy about it. And we're all happy to see progress, and we think of that as success. You're losing, let's say, 1.5 pounds a week. That's amazing. But then over time, that 1.5 pounds turns into, let's say, 1.2 per week, and then it turns into 1 pound per week, and then you feel like a failure, because in your mind, 1.5 pounds was success, 1 pound must be failure, because in your mind you don't know what's normal, at least initially, because you haven't gone through the process before. So you might think that you need to do something, and then that forces your mind to think, how can I speed things up? How can I go more aggressive with my calories? How can I add more cardio? And you start making all these mistakes, which end up either getting you to lose muscle because you're going too fast. It starts making the diet very unsustainable, and you just start tinkering with the process too much. And it's all about managing the expectations and actually knowing what is normal. So it is normal for fat loss to slow down. Of course, it should not stop. If it stops, you're not in a calorie deficit, obviously, so that's something to consider, but it should slow down. So the initial rate that you get is not the rate that you're going to have at the end. So expect this. This is absolutely normal. It's going to happen to you. It happens to all of us. There's not much we can do about that. And it's important to know about this so you don't end up in that loop where you're thinking you're a failure and you keep telling yourself every single day when you see that scale not go down as fast as you want. It can really be a bummer, and it can make the whole process a lot less enjoyable, and you might never get there if you don't overcome this. So I'm telling you what to expect. Normal for things to slow down. It's fine. You're going to get to the goal, and you just have to adjust your math a little bit. And that's why it's important to look at and get through one of the cuts properly, get down 10% body fat, do it the right time. And once you do it for the first time, you do it properly, you always know how that feels, how it's going to go, and it just gives you that confidence. Every other time, like I've done, one of my first cuts was the hardest ones. Every other one was a lot easier because I knew what to expect. The numbers didn't surprise me anymore. I knew approximately what was supposed to happen, and I wasn't off by much, and that was enough for me. I enjoyed the process, and it was a lot better. So the first time is the hardest. Once you do it for the first time, afterwards it gets a lot easier. Now, the second thing you need to know about getting a ripped physique is that you're probably not going to look your best in those last few weeks of that cut. And this is what a lot of people get wrong, and it can be a real bummer. It can be a big disappointment if you expect that you're going to look your best when you're still in that deep calorie deficit, when you're still depleted, when you have all that diet fatigue. But in fact, when you're going to look your best is when you transition from that calorie deficit, from that cut, into a maintenance or a lean gaining phase, and then you fill out. That's when your physique is going to look amazing. And I've seen some incredible transformations in my own journey and as well as with clients when they transition, how much bigger and better they look. And this is something that you really need to know because it can be a big disappointment. And actually, this leads a lot of people to fall off track and then end up regaining weight very quickly because they think that this is just not worth it. When they see themselves in those last few weeks, they're not as full, they're flat. There's actually, you even feel fatter sometimes because there's not a lot of glycogen there. The muscle stores have been depleted. You might have been in a deficit for many months to get that lean. So this is something you need to know and expect. So transition properly to a maintenance phase, and they are going to probably look a lot better than you did when you're toward that end of that body fat loss phase. Third thing that you need to be really careful with is the rebound at the end of your fat loss phase. A lot of people underestimate the drive to eat when you're finishing your cut, especially when you start eating a little bit more, especially when you start transitioning into that maintenance phase, because your brain is opportunistic. When your mind sees all that food and now it's available and you start getting a little bit, it's easy to get a couple of extra bites, and then those extra couple of bites turn into more and more and more and more. By the time you know it, you regain 20 pounds in the next few weeks and you feel horrible because all that work you put in, now you had a massive setback. So really be careful with this. This is one of the biggest issues that I see with people who are getting down to 10% body fat for the first time, is they don't really think about how they're going to properly transition. That transition is so critical, and it is actually one of the most difficult things about the whole journey, is to have a structure and stick to the rules and plow through for an extra couple of weeks. It's almost like continuing the diet in a way. Don't think the diet is over when it's technically over when you reach your 10% body fat goal, but it's actually over when you successfully settle at a new weight where you can properly maintain. Have that mentality, because if you don't think of that extension, if you just think it's over, it's very easy to then be loose and not have any rules, not have any structure. And again, then 20 pounds, you gain that in 3-4 weeks and you're back almost where you started your cut. So really be careful with this. I've seen some incredible disciplined individuals who put in a lot of effort, a lot of work to get to that goal, and they reach that goal and they're at the end of the goal, and bam, 3 weeks later you see them and they just regained a lot of body fat. And because you regain all that weight fast, it's mostly body fat. You barely have any time to build muscle. Your body doesn't even know what's going on. Suddenly it has stored a lot of body fat, and that's really what it wants to do. I mean, your body doesn't necessarily want to be at 10% body fat all of a sudden. Like, it's not really accepting that change until you're really getting into that maintenance phase and you really get settled in there, when it gets used to the extra calories, when it gets used to the food, when it gets used to behaving a new way, because the body doesn't like change. I mean, the body loves homeostasis and loves staying the same. So any kind of change is perceived as a threat, especially when you're starving yourself, quote unquote, to get down 10% body fat. It's not really starvation. I mean, you can do a lot of strategies to not be as hungry, do all those stuff, but at the end of the day, the transition is critical. This transition, if you mess this up, you're gonna really have a bad time, because it's so hard. Again, when you make that, let's say, mistake, now how do you get back into a cut phase? That's gonna be so difficult, because you are already carrying so much diet fatigue, and that can actually put people in a really negative loop when they're thinking about, oh, I'm gonna have to cut again, and I don't wanna do that. So it's a lot of competing commitments, and it's a lot of negative self-talk there, and this can linger on for many months until you again recoup, and then you can go back into it. So don't make this mistake. Really think about the strategy, extend the diet if you want to think about it like this, attack this properly, and you're going to reach your goal. And by the way, if you enjoyed this video, make sure to hit the like below. It means a lot to me. It really helps a lot with the YouTube algorithm. Also hit subscribe below if you really enjoy this type of content, if you'd like to learn more about getting that lean physique and really how to reach this type of amazing goal. So definitely hit that subscribe below, and I will see you in that next video.